Geez, you ask Wily to do a certain subject and it ends up taking ages. You know how long I've been asking for this, Wily?
Ah, that destroys me. That voice, oh. Yeah, calm down. We all work around the clock to make these videos even possible. And today, it's finally the day. We are looking at the Buzzy Beetles. These are Koopa-like turtles like Koopa Troopas, but their shell is a lot stronger and has quite an interesting role. But how did these classic Mario enemies that were seen from the beginning evolve in terms of gameplay, use, story, and design? Well, let's find out. Now to start off, we will go all the way back to the 80s when the first Super Mario Bros. Game came out. Here, the Buzzy Beetles first appeared as enemies in World 4-2, which is an underground level. This is the common habitat trope for the Buzzy Beetles. You can find them in a wider variety of darker interior locations, such as tunnels, sewers, ruins, etc. They are common enemies in the level, and their main method of attacking is walking into Mario. Now they are extremely similar to the green Koopa Troopa. Just walking, falling off the ledges, being able to hide in their shell so you can kick it around, and more. But there's one big difference between the two, because due to their hard shells, they cannot be defeated with fireballs. And that's it. Besides that, there is basically no difference between them and many other turtles seen wandering the world in the game. Overall, they're actually quite disappointing. But would any of this change in the games that came after? Well, in Super Mario Bros. 3 we finally saw something that's actually new and changed things quite a lot. Here they can also climb and walk on the ceiling, and to attack intruders they can drop down and spin along the ground to attack. This is a really big change, because now their attack strategy is a big surprise, and they're also quite fast, putting some good old pressure on the player to get out of the way immediately. Now I call these types of foes trap enemies. They wait for the right timing to unleash their sudden and fast tactics, surprising almost all players. This is always a good element to have in levels, since it will make the game less stale and predictable. But there is more. A flying variation called Beetle, which are only found in one level. These have a completely different role, because you can hop on their back for a ride, allowing you to traverse air levels and making them one of the very few enemies that cannot be defeated by jumping on them. So these enemies have quite a different purpose in this level. Not really as enemies that try to take you out, but actually interactive platforms that make platforming in general more interesting. Personally, I think this is genius. So, quite a good variation. Now after this game we saw Super Mario World, which is probably the best 2D title of this entire early era. And here we yet again see some new versions of this enemy, like the Spike Tops, who have a spike on their back, which cannot be jumped on. Now, it's quite obvious what their role is. Nothing more than being a harder to beat Buzzy Beetle now that jumping on them means death. Except when you do a spin jump. This game also introduces bony beetles, which are undead skeletons of a Buzzy Beetle. They walk around, then stop, and stick out spikes, which is new. And yet again, it's a surprise element for the player that could be fatal. And just like all the other skeletal enemies, taking them out doesn't last long. Overall, the main form of the Buzzy Beetle didn't really change that much. Instead, a ton of new types with their own little gimmicks were added, mostly making it stronger or giving it a special surprise tactic. After this, there was a long period of silence, thanks to the 2D side-scroller games being gone and all the focus going to the 3D games. But after more than 13 years, it all came back in the form of new Super Mario Bros. The almighty 2D reboot, where they are seen, but nothing changed. It wasn't really a good return for them, mediocre at best. Only in the next game we would see something sort of new. In the Wii game, Kamek may also transform blocks into Buzzy Beetles during his boss fight, which isn't much, sadly enough. But there's one other thing, a new subspecies called the Heavy Parabeetle. However, these are nothing more than a bigger version of the ones already seen in older titles. Originally, they even wanted a big Buzzy Beetle to appear in this title too, but they never appeared in any levels in the final game. However, through hacking methods, it is possible to use one in a level. These were eventually seen in New Super Mario Bros. U, and they have one special ability in this game, which is a bit similar to what the Parabeetles do, because they they act as both enemies and platforms. You can jump and stand on top of one's shell while it's floating on lava when it rises, showing that they're immune to lava as well. So these bigger ones are like a combination between the para and normal beetles in terms of role in the game, both helping and threatening you, a gift and a curse. Now we move on to the most recent game it was seen in that's even getting a sequel soon, Super Mario Maker. Here there's a big new item, the Buzzy Beetle shell, which Mario can wear when one lands on his head, protecting him from enemies and traps from above, which is quite a cool thing to add. Armor was never really given to our hero in such a way after all. You can even see it used in extremely creative ways in a ton of levels built by users. But it doesn't end there. You're able to ride on Buzzy Beetle shells by jumping and landing on them, as they move if they're not shot by a bill blaster. So in general, they became a lot more versatile, so that the level builders had a lot more freedom in terms of what they can do in levels, which is quite a good upgrade for this enemy when it comes to this game, because in the others, it wouldn't be as effective. Here it's only done to make sure the building section of the game didn't feel limited at all. And that's where our tale ends. The Buzzy Beetle used to be an extremely basic and forgettable enemy, but in time it finally got some special features of its own, making it stand out in levels for the first time. Maybe someday more variations and weird abilities will be seen. Thanks for watching everybody, I hope you enjoyed. If you want to watch more videos, be sure to click the others on the screen right now, and also subscribe and click the bell button, it's really important.